Real stories and fresh wisdom on the front porch. Join us with today's guest.
Thank you for being here on another episode of Wisdom on the Front Porch. And on my front porch today, we have Laura Watson. Laura, I didn't even ask, where are you located at?
I am located in central Alberta, Canada,
Oh,
about
wow.
halfway between the two major cities of Edmonton and Calgary.
Yeah, I actually know Calgary kind of well. I'll put it that way. I used to live up near the border, and we would go there for the rodeos and stuff, of course,
Come
because
up for
there.
Stampede, yes. It's
Yeah,
always a
yeah,
good time.
it is. It is one of my favorite places. So pretty up there. Beautiful area.
We
Uh,
enjoy it, that's for sure.
yeah. So you are a coach, and you coach on communication, leadership, challenging things in business, challenges overall, personal and in business. But how did you get started in this?
Oh, well, great question, because I've been coaching business owners and executive leaders now for over 20 years,
Wow.
before coaching was really a thing.
Awesome.
So my original training is in social work and in counseling.
Okay.
So I did my master's degree in social work 30 years ago. I've always been in the helping professions. And I got to a place in my counseling career where I was starting to evaluate where I was at and what I wanted for myself personally and professionally. My children were young at the time. My husband had his first business. And so I actually hired a career coach to help me do some thinking and some reflecting and give me some feedback. And I explored a number of options at the time. And one of the options was having an interview with my husband's business coach. And
Nice. Wow,
so
you were
I
into coaching way before most people were.
Absolutely, yeah. So I met with his coach, and he was coaching business owners from a perspective that he called at the time higher purpose, higher profit.
Oh,
And
oh,
people who, which is a conversation actually that's very similar to what Simon Sinek talks
okay.
about now. And that really appealed to me, the idea of helping business owners make a bigger difference in the world, be more successful so that as their business got bigger, they could do more and do better. That was really appealing to me. And because it was so appealing, and I've always wanted to help people, that's the avenue I decided to pursue. And and I'm really lucky because with my counseling background, I'm able to really be what I call a whole person coach.
Right.
So business owners hire me because they're wrestling with some sort of challenge in their business. And then once we get rolling in our work together, they discover, oh, you mean you can help me with my marriage? You can help me with my parenting? You can help me learn how to communicate more effectively? Cool.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I
definitely.
really love the fact that I have all of those skills and tools to bring to the table and can because business owners are people
That's
and
right.
right have all the same challenges that all of us have. So I feel really fortunate that my coaching goes way beyond talking about business plans and execution and really about coaching the whole individual.
Right. And that explains how you can be discussing business one day and the next day be discussing addictions or parenting or infidelity, because all those
Uh,
things are part of being a human being. We all have issues that we go through, and I love that your background allows you to do this, because sometimes our challenges in business are up here or they're right
they're
here.
all up here.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
all in our
I have to
mindset.
agree. Yeah, and it's it's good to have somebody who can address those issues instead of just, oh, I can only help you with this, but you're going to have to go get this fixed before I can help you because that's what's causing the problem. Uh,
Mhm.
and some people do help with all of that, but when it's really your forte, when it's something that you've dealt with in different ways, like you have, It really gives you an edge, I believe, to continue helping with anything that's going on.
I think so. So yeah, I've had my clients introduce me to working events. Yeah, this is my business psychiatrist.
There you go.
So, so I wouldn't necessarily use
I
that
like that.
term, but they have, and it's all good.
Oh yeah. It makes sense because you're going in deeper than just I have an AI problem or I have a communication problem just within the group. Sometimes there's a reason there's a communication problem and you have to
Mhm.
address that. I mean, a lot of people are really great about helping people communicate, but then sometimes after the coach is gone, it dwindles back because they never really resolved the main problem that was there in the first place.
Yes, I agree with you that there are many problems are actually symptoms of
Yeah,
something happening underneath,
great way to
right?
put it.
With
Yes,
our mindset, our perspective of something, a blind spot, something we can't see. And so that's something that I've spent a lot of time and energy on and make, huge progress on with people is getting below the symptoms and identifying the core problem. Because when we can resolve the core problem, then the symptoms go away. It's kind of like,
yeah,
when you got a cold, right? You can take medication for the symptoms, get rid of the runny nose, but until the cold goes away, that runny nose
yeah,
ain't going away.
yeah,
So,
that's right.
yeah. I like
That's
digging
that's
in
a great way to
underneath.
put it. Yeah, yeah. You could have a sore arm, but until you realize, oh, your arm is broken. That's why it hurts. That's
Hmm.
why it's bruised. That's why it's flopping around. But yeah, I mean, you've got to go to the deep part of it. Everybody talks about the root of a problem. And that's
Hmm.
because with weeds, if you don't pull that root out, if you just break the top off, it's gonna come back.
It
Weeds
just
come from
grows back. And often we don't know because we're so connected or familiar with the symptoms, we don't know
yeah,
what that core problem is. And many people, they're blind to it. And
yes,
because,
yes,
business owners, leaders, they're just so busy all day, putting out fires, dealing with their team, dealing with clients, and they don't actually take time to reflect. And then even if
I
they do take time to reflect, with those blinders are on, it's really difficult to see because they're inside their own box, if you will.
right.
Right?
I
You can't see the outside of the box from the inside of the box. And so that's where having a coach can be so helpful, is because a coach can listen in a different way, can ask questions in a different way. And even in our listening, the listening gives us clues to what those blind spots are and what might be underneath and help us dig a little bit.
that's true. I was just on a recording for another uh wisdom on the front porch earlier today, and he was
Hmm.
talking about things that you grew up with as a child that you don't even realize are there as you're older, and that those are the things that are causing the problem. Uh,
Absolutely.
Yeah, so sometimes it's good to have somebody, what they say, someone on the outside looking in, because sometimes
Mhm.
we're too much involved in it. As you said, we're too much on the inside and we're
Right.
looking out, but we can't see what's around us.
And we
Uh,
don't always need psychotherapy,
right,
really
right.
to root that out. But yes, a lot of our triggers, for example, I was just having a conversation with a client this week about her triggers.
Oh,
And we started examining that because when she gets triggered, she gets reactive
yeah,
in her behavior, whether it's at home or in the office with her team. So we had to explore that trigger and where does it come from? And sure enough, that came from something back in her childhood that hasn't been healed yet.
right,
And
right.
so our conversation brought some light to that so that now she is more aware. And
Good.
with awareness, she can start doing things
Yes,
differently.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, I have a family member who has PTSD, and
Mm.
yeah, triggers are just boom, all of a sudden they're there, and
Hmm.
you don't know. And as this family member was getting uh like I guess the word counseling, but going to psychologists and
Hmm.
therapists. therapists for it. The triggers weren't as triggery anymore. However, I have a wonderful friend that I pray with every week. And my friend told me, I've been praying that you would better understand your family members' PTSD. So when I got hit by the bull, I ended up with PTSD. And
Oh.
boom, I mean, things would just set me off, make me cry, and more make me sad, or I would be just kind of ornery. And it's like, this is definitely not like me. And so, of course, I would find out why. Oh, well, you have PTSD. And I told my friend, thanks a lot.
It's
'Cause boy,
not quite
I understand
how
it
you
now.
wanted to understand it better, was it?
Yeah. But mine is fresh enough and it's older in life. So I think I'm able to, um, I don't want to use the word cure because that's really not the appropriate word, but I'm better able to understand what was going on, why this incident made it happen compared to other things that should have been a reason for it, and they
Right.
didn't. And so that's been quite a journey looking at that and then having to go through it, and it is better. But yeah, that firsthand experience of just all of a sudden it's there and it's like, yeah, I get it. Well,
Yep.
but I had sympathy for him before. Now I really have empathy.
Yes.
I don't suggest go out and get it so you understand it.
Well, no,
Yeah,
exactly.
but yeah,
But it's great that you've built awareness around it, because
yeah,
now with awareness, you it's not in the driver's seat anymore,
yeah,
is what I'm
yeah,
hearing you say, right?
yeah.
You
You're
can
conscious of it happening and you're paying attention. When I came out of going through the stages of being separated from a toxic relationship earlier, but before the divorce is final and stuff, going through the counseling and all of that, one comment that was made to me is, I've got women that have been here for 20 years and they're still on day one. How did you get so far advanced in this first month? And I said, because I don't want to stay there. There is nothing about that I want to stay in my life. I want out of it. And that's the only thing I could think of, was that I just didn't want to stay there. And I think maybe that's what this one too. I can recognize it. I'm probably more in tune to my body and stuff more than others. I get that from my mom, my grandma. And so it's might be a little, I don't want to say easier, but I'm more determined, able to
Yep.
recognize things maybe more than others. And that might have helped. But I think really recognizing it and realizing as soon as it starts, all right, you got to grab that. They talk about capturing your thoughts. And I had been learning that over the past year. Well, now I really have to capture those before they get carried away. Uh,
Right. Yeah,
but
because they can go down a rabbit hole pretty fast.
well, they just spin out of control. It's like the Tasmanian devil, and it's
Yeah.
like cute
Yes.
in cartoons, not cute in real life.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one thing I do want to say for those who are listening that might be in an unhealthy situation is do get help to get out of there, find ways that you're not in that situation, but realize that once you're out of that situation and you're not going back to it, you still have to go through counseling. I didn't know I needed more counseling afterwards, but you do, because you've had that whole time of this stuff being put in your head, of you reacting, acting, um, just always being a part of you. And so you need to know how to deal with that. And so I still have some struggles and stuff going through afterwards, but
Yeah.
you get there eventually.
You get
And
there, yes, absolutely.
yeah,
And just like counseling, you've got someone to talk to and
yes,
process that through with, and someone to give you feedback
mhm,
uh, and perspective on what you're dealing
yes,
with.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, I like what you had said to me too. You said you help leaders and business owners tap into that potential. It's an untapped potential. You help them tap into that potential so they love their lives and businesses. And that's just amazing. I mean, I love what I do. I love being a podcast host for both this show and for reading between the words, authors and their books. Also for the magazine. I love doing that. It's serving others. And I love helping my clients who want to write their first book or write a second book or a third one, or they've had a bad experience and now they want to still write, but they want a good experience with it. I mean, there's nothing better than that. I look forward to Mondays, I look forward to the weekends too, because then I've got time that I spend with my family and going out into the world and doing things. But when you look forward to what you're doing, there's just nothing as amazing and wonderful as that.
Yeah, I love the expression, when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah,
And
and I really
love
do
more
consider
too.
it's I really consider it an honor and a privilege to be able to help people with their challenges and help them uncover that potential. I think we all have more potential in us than we realize,
Oh yeah.
and it's our thinking and our blind spots that are keeping us from that. And so I really, love having the opportunity to help people see bigger and tap into their strengths and imagine new possibilities for themselves, and then take action aligned with those possibilities so that they can create the life and the business that they really want.
Yes, absolutely. Now, this show is by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. So I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs out there
Mm.
who have so many challenges, but I'm curious as to what are some of the um, are there common challenges that people come to with you, or is it also varied when it comes to their business?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's definitely themes and common threads. I
Okay.
often talk to people when I first meet them, and every individual, well, I'm different. Like, well, not really.
We're unique.
We are
And we're
all
different
unique.
in our processes, but yeah, but
Yes, but there's definitely common threads. So,
yes.
whether it's distraction that they're dealing with and staying focused and managing their time effectively, whether it's communication, that's a big thing because, people don't learn communication skills in
No.
school, right? And often we don't learn them from our families.
Yes.
So, what ends up happening is they go into the workplace, they start a business, and then they have a team. And what I find actually is they kind of lead their team based on how they were parented. There
Oh,
ends up
interesting.
being this parent-child type of dynamic within companies where the manager or the leader of the company is kind of like mom or dad, and the team members are all the siblings. And it's amazing how similar the dynamics are that
Wow.
play out.
That is
And
interesting. Uh,
mhm,
yeah, because as I look back over my work career, let's say working in different places, you do have that dynamics. And then you have the dynamics where you have that boss who comes in and talks to you. How's your day? How are things going? What's happening in the plant? Who really
mhm,
does want to know the heartbeat of their business.
mhm.
They're not there to um, check up on you and make sure you're doing your work. They're there to find out how the company is doing, how the employees are doing. If the employees aren't happy, your company's not going to be doing very well.
Exactly.
Um, and you can't just, gosh, I worked at one place to where they were not very good at motivating,
Mhm.
put it that way. Um, but yeah, so how would you if all you've ever known is how to parent or how to do you were taught by your parents, how do you change that dynamics to actually working as a team together, even though you may be the leader of the team? I know John Maxwell, I know there's others that do that. Was it, oh boy, I want to say Lee Iacocca, and I don't think that's quite the right person I'm thinking of. But I remember somebody would go into their company and would know the employees by name, which I absolutely love that because I've always
Mm-hmm.
trouble remembering people's
Yeah.
names
Yeah.
as I got older. Um, but would go in and just really talk with each other. And I know there's parents who do that too. They really have conversations with their children, find out
Mm-hmm.
what's going on and stuff. But as I, so we have these examples to follow, but when all we've known is that
There,
parent-child relationship, how do you
exactly.
change
The
that?
the examples are a little rare as far as that people-centered style of leadership that you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
Because most lots of people come out, they grow up and the type of parenting style that they experienced was one of two things. It was a power-based parenting style, do as I say kind of thing, or it was a very wishy-washy parenting style where there was no structure.
Right.
And those tend to be sort of the dominant styles, if you will. And no
Oh,
one's learned that there's a middle ground where you can have a relationship with your children that's not power-based and still
right.
create structure. So when people haven't learned that, then they're usually coming into the workplace and with one of those two styles in place, again, not understanding the middle ground. Now, fortunately, there's some great content out there that actually addresses this because one of the things, so one of the books that I like to recommend to my clients when it comes to developing their leadership style and communication skills is a book by Dr. Thomas Gordon, and it's called Leader Effectiveness Training.
Oh, good
And
title.
it has been around for ages. It is actually a second or third book that he wrote. The very first book he wrote was called Parent Effectiveness Training. And that is everyone talks says that there's no how-to book for parenting. Well, that's the how-to book for parenting
Oh man,
because
there's a
it
few.
talks, yeah, but that one is really powerful. And what I love about both of these books, and Leader Effectiveness Training follows this, is that it doesn't just talk about what to do as a
Mhm.
leader and in your communication, it talks about how to do it. Because
Oh,
so
good.
many books out there say you got to do this, just do this. And
Which is
well,
that same concept, the power.
right. And it's like, well, how? And so
Yeah.
people, they get the idea a lot, theoretically, okay, I need to do this, but they don't know how. And that's really become my secret sauce over the years is helping people bridge theory to practice.
Oh, good.
And so, first of all, understanding, well, what do we need to do different? For example, with our communication with our team members or delivering feedback, for example. But it's not enough to just say you got to give feedback or you got to do it differently. It's how do you structure that feedback conversation? What do you say when? There are tips and tricks, if you will, for how to have an effective feedback conversation that keeps the person you're delivering feedback to, keeps them engaged, keeps them
Hmm.
open to hearing it,
Okay.
because sometimes people receive feedback as criticism and automatically get defensive. And so we have to understand that because if the defensiveness shows up, we have to know how to deal with it.
Right.
And we have to know how to prevent the defensiveness in the first place. And those
Right.
are all very specific communication skills that I love teaching people because when we communicate effectively, we build relationships,
Awesome.
whether it's our work relationships, our spousal relationships, our relationships with our kids. I love what a global impact effective communication skills can have in our life and business. So that's definitely one area that I really love working on with people.
That's awesome. So that's one area. Tell me about the other areas. I don't know though. I know there's a lot.
How
I
much
set
time
my
you
other
got?
glasses down and I can't find them. And these are little crickets. Or I keep adjusting them all the time. But
Yeah, well, in addition, I guess, in addition to the communication skills, which I love working on, it's also the mental and emotional mastery. I
okay.
really love helping people with that area of focus because, and you hinted to it earlier, that it's our thoughts that drive our feelings, and our feelings drive our action or our
Oh, yes.
inactions, and it's our action or our inactions that drive our results.
Right. And I was
And
just thinking when you were saying that earlier, I thought, we have two ears and one mouth, but we've got a brain that it has to process through.
mhm,
And why some people are defensive is because of where their brain came from. They're
mhm,
thinking that you're attacking them when in fact you're really not. You're showing them maybe you're showing them a different way to do something. Not that their way is wrong, but here's a different perspective of it. Um,
mhm,
and again, I've got a lot of family and I really interact with our family. But I do have a family member who is highly intelligent.
mhm,
But when you start saying, well, why don't we do it this way? It's like, well, because this way is the better. Well, it may be the
mhm,
better, but there's nothing wrong with this other way, you know.
mhm.
Or they'll say, well, why didn't you do it the way I told you to do it? And it's like, I got the same results. What difference does it matter?
Yes.
It's just that thing of growing up. Yeah, did you feel like there was always inadequacy? You were never quite good enough. So when someone says, maybe try a different way, automatically you think, oh, well, they must not like me. They must think I'm not good enough. They must think I can
Mhm.
do the job, which it's really not the case at all.
Well, exactly. And what you're talking about now is another area that I love helping people with, which
Oh,
is the stories that they create
yes,
about. So someone, what you're talking about there is, two people interacting. One person says, well, I'd like to try it this other way. And then your family member in this example is making up a story that, oh, well, they don't think I'm good enough. When, of course, that has nothing to do
right.
with the idea of doing something a bit differently. So that's another area, that's another big blind spot for a lot of people, is they don't realize the assumptions or stories that they're making up based on other people's actions, words, etc. And so by helping them start to see those stories and assumptions, they can start to stop doing that, because often their stories um, create their own reaction to the
Okay,
situation, which isn't appropriate for
right,
the
right.
situation at the time. And so if they can um, learn to put that on pause and I call it deal with the what so, deal with the facts of the situation instead of the stories or the assumptions that they're making up about it, we can create completely different results.
Awesome. Awesome. This reminds me too of hearing one time, and I wasn't even in business at the time. I'm not even sure how I heard about it. Um, but it was where a business person had these employees, and some employees weren't doing very well. Some were doing absolutely excellent. So they went to find out why. And they had each employee, you know, just answer questions. It was totally anonymous. What kind of things do you like to do? You know, just not so much personal, but just generally getting to know them as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And what they found out is the people that weren't doing very well weren't doing well because they were in a position in the company that did not fit them. So
Mm.
maybe they had one person who was greeting customers and they were okay, but they just weren't that good at it. So they had that person in research and development where they did really well. Oh, maybe they
Mm-hmm.
had one person who was in charge of the factory line or something, but they were really great at working with the people on the line, but they weren't great at actually making the line do what it needs to be done. So they put that person in charge of greeting the people. They did really great at that. So
Mhm.
so maybe you might have employees or someone on your team who's not, pulling their weight or whatever. How do you go about finding that maybe this person is a really great employee, they're just not in the right position in the company? Is that something you can help them with? Do you know about
Absolutely. There's
that?
a couple of great tools out there
Okay.
that I bring to the table when my clients are dealing with that sort of thing. One of them is a book called Strengths Finder.
Okay.
What I love about that book is it helps people identify what their strengths are. And as a leader, a business owner, you've got an opportunity to have that conversation with your employees. What are their strengths? And the whole premise of that book is build on your strengths.
Yes.
So many of us have this mindset that, oh, my strengths are there, that's fine, but I got to tackle my weaknesses. Well, why? You don't always your growth doesn't always have to be about tackling our weaknesses. Growth can be about building on our strengths.
Okay.
And when we build on our strengths, yes, we're going to be happier. We're going to love what we're doing and do a better job of it. So Strengths Finder can be a great tool for that. Another tool that I like to recommend is a book called Traction. And it's got a number of things in it, but one of the things they talk about is doing an employee audit and
Oh,
really looking at each employee that's working for you and evaluating them according to whether or not they're living into the company's values,
okay.
core values. What are their strengths? And do they really, understand? They have this thing called GWC. Do they get their job? Do they want their job? And do they have the capacity to do their job, which is the skills and abilities? And so sitting down and using tools like that helps you look at your employees objectively and then uncover blind spots that you have with your employees and then work with them to create either maybe shuffle their position or create a plan of growth and development afterwards that can really help that person thrive
That
instead of just saying,
sounds
ah,
great.
they're lousy at this and letting them go.
Yeah, yeah, because it costs you money. You've been training this employee and now you're gonna have to let them go and train somebody else, or maybe
Hugely expensive.
training them, but
Turnover is very
training them is
expensive.
just,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
wondering, gosh, would those be good for parents to look at, to help their teenagers to find their strengths, to see what they really are good at. Maybe they don't really know. Maybe the
Absolutely. In fact, when our kids were in high school and starting to think about university choices. That's one of the books we actually had them both read.
Oh, awesome.
And the book actually is like one chapter.
Oh,
And
wow.
there's a little assessment tool. And yeah, it was one of the things that we used to help our kids identify their strengths. And so that they could use those insights to help them with their choosing their education and career paths. Absolutely.
So I have to ask, how did your kids respond to that?
Well, at first there was a little bit of eye rolling of
Yeah.
really,
Oh, please.
yeah, but really, you're gonna make us do this? So yeah, they weren't exactly jumping up and down with excitement about it, but they heard us out, and they ended up actually both using the tool
Good.
and to their benefit, right? So I give them credit for being open-minded to mom and dad. Uh, but yeah, they embraced it along with some other tools that we brought to the table with them.
Oh, good.
And now they're both in careers that they love and they're excelling at.
Oh,
So
awesome.
I think it paid
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's great. Yeah, because sometimes, there's all these tools that are out there. Oh, you can help your kids choose this career, do all of this. But, they may choose a career, but they might find that they don't have any strengths in that. And maybe there's a different part of that career that they would be stronger at, but they just don't know it. So that sounds like a really great tool.
Well,
Like,
that actually happened to a girlfriend of mine. Her
that's
girls
great.
both went to university, did a 4-year program, got out and realized we hate this, and then ended up going back to university. And so how much time and money was involved in doing that until they actually found that the career that they loved. So yeah, I mean, as coaches, my husband and I, we tried to coach our kids, not steer them in one particular direction, but coach them, ask them questions,
Okay.
help them gain their own insights, give them a few tools along the way so that they could make those decisions for themselves and figure it out without us telling.
Yes,
And yeah, like I said, I think it's paid off well so far.
that's really good. Yeah, I just had a young lady ask me about what to do in life. She knows what she loves, she knows what she likes to do, but she doesn't want to spend 4 years at college and realize that isn't the path she wanted to do. She doesn't want to spend 10 years working in a career that she really hates. And
Hmm.
I really didn't know what else to tell her, because sometimes you got to try these things out, maybe on a weekend or something. Um,
Hmm.
um, Again, the podcast I had just before this, we talked about all these different things, different ways to try it. Try it for a summer, where if you're not married, work 2 or 3 different jobs and see what you like. But what I really like is, here you've got 2 books that will help them make some decisions to know what they're strong in right now. And
Hmm.
maybe if they're, this is again going to the weak part, but if there's something they really want to try and they don't have very many strengths in that, maybe this is the time to try and get those strengths out, and
Hmm.
increase the strengths is what I was referring to. Not get those strengths out, but make them stronger. Not that they're a weakness, they just haven't gotten there yet. Just saying
Hmm.
that reminds me of my son when we first started homeschooling, not because we were against the schools or anything. We were just going to move for my husband's work for training and then move back. And I said, well, this is what we're going to do. And all the teachers said, homeschool them, keep them on the same curriculum
Hmm.
all year long. Well, in homeschooling our son, we found out he thought he was so stupid because he was so far behind in math. And
Hmm.
it's not that he was stupid, he wasn't. There were skills that he had never been taught.
Yeah.
And I found out when we came back that the teacher who had taught math did not teach them multiplication, but yet went on to the next grade and expected them to learn division at home.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
like, wait, what? Why didn't you teach it? She
Yeah.
didn't want to teach it because she doesn't enjoy teaching it. And it's
Oh
like,
my
so I said,
goodness.
look, see, here's proof that it's not because you're stupid. It's because these are just things that you didn't know yet,
Hmm.
that you haven't learned. So sometimes
Right.
you just need to learn the skills to get there. Um, and then,
Absolutely.
I don't want to say anything negative about the school. That was just, the circumstance that we discovered in that point. Actually loved homeschooling. Didn't plan on continuing it, but gosh,
Hmm.
I got to know my kids so well, and they all got into college or university. So
Nice.
I've done something right, but
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah,
had good
well, and what we're
programs.
talking about is skills development.
Yes,
And right,
yes,
and leadership is a skill.
yes,
There's an idea, out there that leaders are born, but I don't believe leaders are born. I believe they're made. And they're
yes,
made because by learning leadership skills and understanding leadership. And obviously there's tons of leadership material out there.
right.
But I find a lot of people fall into leadership roles either because they were good at their job and they've worked themselves up the corporate ladder,
Yes,
or
yes,
they have developed a skill and decided, you know what, this is great, I can start my own business, not realizing that their professional expertise, those skills, are different from leadership skills.
Yes,
And then they get into a
absolutely.
leadership position and they struggle only because they haven't learned those skills yet. But they're
Yes,
learnable.
they
If
are.
someone is open-minded and willing to embrace that, they're definitely learnable.
Oh, absolutely. I was not a leader when I was younger. I was absolutely a follower. And it wasn't until my kids were getting married and we went to an event and everybody looked at me to lead them. And that was such a weird, it wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't, I mean, it was surprising, but it was just weird for me. It's like, I'm not a leader because I had always believed I wasn't. I didn't realize
Hmm.
I had grown into that position. And then it's like, okay, so how do I lead? How do I lead effectively? So you start honing on those skills and knowing what they are. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah. So it's like sales. Maybe you're not good at sales, but you can learn to be better at sales. Marketing. You talk about my weakness. Yeah, but I'm learning more and you
Hmm.
it can be learned. So a lot of what we do can be learned.
It
And
can be learned, or sometimes the breakthrough is realizing this is not my area of expertise and
yeah.
I need to hire help.
Oh yeah.
As
That's okay
right,
to do
there's
that
that
too.
element too, right?
Yeah,
There because it's just going to take too long to learn a particular skill.
right.
And so you have to look at what resources you have available, the timeline that you have available, and
Yes.
is this really something that you want to dive into and learn yourself? Or is this something that you really should hire out or delegate because it's going to be done faster and better by somebody else? And that's an important question to ask ourselves.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because even though we may be really good at doing something, that doesn't mean we still can't delegate it to somebody else who might be better. Like if
Hmm.
you're going to have an event, but you're great at getting people together, you know how to get sponsors, but there's someone else who can really get it there, like you said, faster, who can maybe do a better job of it, who can reach others because they have a wider network than you have. And
Hmm.
let them let them do that, give people the opportunity to impress you, to show you what they can do for you, and
Yeah.
that helps build strong relationships too.
That
And
actually reminds me of another tool that's in the traction book. And
okay,
it's a tool that I've used with my clients. It's called Delegate and Elevate. And it's just a simple little one-page grid where, as a business owner, you would write down everything that you're good at and love to do, and things that maybe you're good at but don't like to do, and the
right,
things, for lack of a better term, that you really suck at. And
right,
because so many small business owners, especially, they think they have to do it all themselves. They
yes,
get stuck in that mindset, right? And that
yeah,
little tool helps them realize, okay, this is the stuff I really excel at, and this is high value work that only I can do. Great, go do more of it. And the
yeah,
things that the business owner doesn't like doing or they're not good at, that really drag them down and maybe are lesser value activities or are still valuable but not in their wheelhouse, then those
right.
are the things that they have to look at offloading in some way. And the ability to hire subcontractors or part-time people today is so much easier than it has ever been. So
Oh,
I
really?
think that's really important for owners to understand what are they good at, what can only they do, create that clarity, elevate themselves into more of that while they delegate the rest.
Oh, that's really good advice. I like that. Um, yeah. So, you mostly work with small business owners, in service-based companies,
Hmm.
or a C-level executive, and let's see, leading teams of 5 to 20 people want to be more effective leaders. What makes a leader an effective leader? Not a good leader, not a great leader, but someone who actually has the ability to have a positive effect on their team, that their team is just going like that.
I think one of the most important skills for a leader is their listening skills.
Mhm.
So many leaders are running around the office, telling. And what makes for a really effective leader is their listening abilities. People want to feel heard. They want to feel understood. They want to feel inspired. You know, a leader, being a leader implies you've got a vision, you're headed somewhere. And people will follow because they're enrolled in that vision, in that possibility that you've created and want to come with you on the journey. So if you've got, people working for you who, first of all, if you've got a vision and you're clear about that, you know where you're headed as an organization, you can communicate that effectively to others so that they can get on board with it. And then in the execution and the pursuit of the vision, you're listening to people along the way, getting their feedback, getting their input. Then that's those are some huge things that you can do that's going to make you a more effective leader.
That is awesome. I love that. So how do people get a hold of you to work with you?
Yeah, well, one of the best places is to find my website, which is at venturecoaching.ca. It's easy. My phone number's there. There's a form they could fill in if they prefer to reach out that way. And I would always follow up on that. The cool thing about coming to my website is there's a bunch of free resources available. So these feedback, how to give effective feedback, these communication tools, even business planning, those are all free resources on my website. And so that's a great place for people to get started as well. And then, yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, so the usual channels that way. I've also done a number of these podcasts, and so
Good.
they're on my website as well. So if people are interested in other topics that I've had the pleasure of speaking about, there's another way that they can get some free resources.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Gosh, thank you so much. So do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to leave to our audience?
Um, I guess my closing thought was actually a conversation that I was having yesterday, which is uh, be the change you wish to see in the world. That's one of my mantras, and I think is an important lesson for leaders. Because my clients, they get complaining to me sometimes about who's not doing what and what have you. And it's like, well, when did you role model that last?
Oh,
And they're like, oh,
you preach.
exactly. So I think that's a powerful lesson. So yeah, so let's close with the idea of be the change, because I
I like
think
that.
that's a powerful one.
That's very good. Thank you so much for being on my show. I've really enjoyed meeting you. I can't believe how fast this time has gone by.
It has, hasn't it?
Really fast. And it's like, yay, that means we had a great conversation. That's
Well,
great.
super. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me today. It's been a pleasure talking to you and your audience, and I certainly hope that your audience has gained some value from this conversation.
Oh, yes, me too. That's what the show is all about, is bringing value, bringing useful tools that they can use, helping them grow in their business and their personal life. And I love that. And as you as our audience, thank you so much for being on our porch with us today. I'll speak right someday. But you can find more information at wisdomonthefrontporch.com, and you can subscribe to the magazine. You can subscribe to the podcast where you get more insider information and other helpful hints and tips and all of that. And I thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Laura. I truly enjoyed this time with you. And we'll see you next time on the front
Thank you.
porch.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, my Front Porch friends and neighbors, for pulling up a chair with me and my guest today on Wisdom on the Front Porch. Now, if you've got value from this conversation, would you do me a favor? Leave a quick review, then share it with someone you know who could use some inspiration. It helps more friends find their seat on the porch. And hey, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss what's next. Until then, keep the porch light on for new wisdom every time you show up. Your seat's always here for you on the porch.